Another one. Another one. Touchdown Jags! Ball game!
Another Jags podcast.
Welcome, everyone, to another Jags podcast. This is the Maurice Jones-Drew episode because it is episode 32. 32. Yeah, so we're going to do this episode. We don't want to, but we have to because we cover the Jags, and win or lose, we're going to talk about them. Unfortunately for this episode, it was a loss, and we'll get into that in a minute. Before we do, we want to let everyone know that we are on Twitter at Another Jags Pod, Facebook and Instagram, Another Jags Podcast. We do have a website. It's not the prettiest, much like the game this past week. It is anotherjagspodcast.com. Jason, your
beauty's in the eyes of the beholder. All right, beauty's on the eyes of the beholder.
Exception.
Okay.
I just like how you have to bring that up every single podcast.
Every time. You never know when it's a first-time listener and someone's going to go to and like, man, this thing sucks.
One of these days we'll fix it.
Like, we know that, all right? We know. All right. We're also on YouTube at Another Jags Podcast. You can just type that in and all of our episodes are there. If there's one person on our podcast that is the Jacksonville Jaguars offense, it is Robert, because he's a no-show this week. He's not here. We do have Jason and Joey. I'm not going to say how y'all are doing. We're all doing terrible. Yeah. If you're a Jaguars fan, you're doing terrible. It's been an awful week since kickoff on Sunday afternoon at 1 o'clock. It's just been a bad week because the Jags played a terrible game. So, we have segments on the show called I Told You So, where we predict something from the week prior and bring that up to brag on ourselves. We're going to skip that segment. We kind of have to,
it's a good
right?
Call. Yeah.
We have to, because we did nothing that we thought was going to happen in the game actually happened, minus the defense holding the Titans to no touchdowns and having a good game. Other than that, that's it. However, we have another segment that we do called Why I'm an Idiot. And that's really what this entire show is going to be. Why we and the entire Jacksonville media, fan base, and everybody that saw the Jaguars play the Patriots, we are all idiots together on this. Joey, why are you an idiot?
I really don't even know where to begin. I could be an idiot for the score that I called. I could be an idiot for listening to you that the Titans were not good or even remotely good.
Titans aren't good.
They're not good. That hasn't changed.
I don't know if I believe that or not. I think they're better than everybody thought. I still picked them second in the division beforehand. You thought they were horrible. I don't know. I think they might be okay. Let's give them that.
No, I stand by my assertion.
You still think they're horrible?
Yes, absolutely.
Right. Well, we'll see. But there are tons of things. But the biggest thing that I'm an idiot about, taking out Gabbert. I wanted that to happen. I wanted multiple sacks over and over again. I wanted him out of the game, and it happened early, and we lost the game probably because it happened. If he hadn't gone out, I think we would have had a much better chance in that game. He couldn't do the stuff with his legs. Mariota came in. He had some decent throws, but he crushed us with his legs.
He didn't really.
I'm an absolute idiot for wanting him out of the game.
He had one decent throw, and it was dropped.
Yeah. And to go back, for those that didn't hear it, Joey, your bold prediction for this game was that the Jags defense would get 8 sacks on Blaine Gabbert. They were on their way to that.
They were very
real
close
quick.
to that. Yeah, that would have happened.
That was the third sack, or what would have been the third sack, was when he got out of the game, which ended up being the play of the game.
Not good, though.
Not good at all. Not good at all.
It was the
turning point for
Absolutely.
sure.
Right.
It was terrible. And not just that he got knocked out, but that the penalty happened. The Jags recover that fumble, they win the game. I honestly believe they do.
Yeah, Campbell already had him down. Malik, he was just going in hard. It was a bad timing situation. It was helmet on helmet. But yeah, that was the turning point, and that was the beginning of the end. Everything was downhill from there.
It was the correct call on a flawed rule.
Yeah.
But Malik didn't do anything wrong. It was a great play on his part as well. He was doing what he was supposed to do. It just happened to be that his teammate was tackling Gabbert as he was doing it, and they ran into each other's heads. He certainly wasn't going for it. It was an awesome play to see live, and then you saw the flag, and then you saw Gabbert go out and Mariota come in. There was a collective groan in the stadium when Mariota came in.
There really was, and say what you want to about Mariota, but he came in and he played with a chip on his shoulder. We joke about that, but I really think he came in and did what he always does to us, man. He always.
I just don't get third down with a mobile quarterback. More times than not, the dude is going to scramble for the first down.
Yes,
everybody knows that. For the first 2 quarters that Mariota was in, we had no spy on him on third down. I would go out there and be like, here's $100 bill. Mariota's going to try to scramble for this first down because it's a lot easier for a mobile quarterback to pick the first down up with his legs than it is his arms.
Especially when his arm is dead and he can't throw the ball.
How do you not spy Telvin on him the entire game? Throw out your game plan, whatever it was, and just say, we're going to play man defense, and Telvin, you're following Mariota wherever he goes. I don't understand why I know I'm oversimplifying it, but if we would have done that strategy, we probably would have won the game.
If anything, they did the opposite of that, and they played like back. They didn't throw the house at him near as much. It was baffling. You knew what he was going to do. Everybody knew what he was going to do. It was obvious.
I mean, we can't blame the defense because they did a good job, but the Titans held the ball for a lot longer than the Jags were on offense. And the Titans had long drives, and they would have long drives and kick a field goal. Long drive, get to the 40 and then punt. Like, it was not like we were letting them go. We weren't making them go 3 and out every possession. Like, the defense could have played better. And people look at the box score and they're like, you can't blame the defense. But these guys came on the post game and were like, we should have been better. And I think the offense was putrid, but the defense should have been better as well.
Hey, I agree 100%. I mean, you can't blame the defense for that just because of what they scored 9 points, but you can. You're supposed to be the best defense in the entire league. The best defense in the entire league doesn't let Mariota run for that first down in the fourth quarter. They come up with a big play. That's what you're supposed to do. Our team is based on that. All our money is spent on that. Our offense is supposed to be worse than the defense. So in games like that, our defense is the one that has to step up. They were playing off the receivers, whether game plan or not. I think the defense could have played a lot better.
I don't know. I disagree. I hear what you're saying, but they gave up 9 points when, like Jason, you were saying, they were on the field for how much longer? A lot of that is no matter how good your defense is, when the offense can't convert a single first down and you're continually going back out onto the field and back out onto the field when it's 8,000 degrees in the stadium, you're going to be gassed eventually. I don't care how much conditioning they did in training camp and all that stuff. You can't keep up that pace. Our offense gave them absolutely no chance to be an elite defense because they never gave them any rest whatsoever. I mean, our offense was awful, and there's no way I can look at that game and for 1 second say our defense let us down. And they did, because they didn't. I mean, they didn't. I mean, Mariota, he made, to me, if you're going to say anything about the defense, say about the coaches, but not about the players.
Okay.
Because the players were doing what they were being coached to do, being in the places they were being asked to play. But they kept him out of the end zone. Mariota comes in. He only led the Titans offense to 2 field goals. And that's only one more than Gabbert did in a quarter of football. So it wasn't like he came in and was just a world beater all of a sudden. He gave them 2 field goals, and we couldn't beat that. I'm sorry. Like, that is, it is squarely on the offense. They were flat from the word go. There's not one play that you can look at in the entire game offensively and be excited about. Not one.
I'm with you 100%. It is falls on the offense, but it was a team effort. The loss was a team effort because I found myself getting frustrated with the defense because of third downs they were giving up, penalties. Their tackling was horrible. I mean, say what you want about PFF, but listen to the following grades for tackling for these players. Yannick Ngakoue, F. As low as the F gets, a 26. Okay? Barry Church, F, 53. Jalen Ramsey, D, 62. Tyler Patman, F, 26. Telvin Smith, F, 28. I mean, these are terrible, terrible tackling grades. And these are guys that are playing 62 snaps, 42 snaps, 62 snaps. These guys are playing a bunch, and they just are not tackling well in space. We should be forcing turnovers. We should be forcing more 3-and-outs. I'm with you. You cannot deny the offense was terrible, but we can't ignore the coaching and the defense. They didn't play their best. And I know they didn't give up a lot of points, but I think that's more of a product of how bad the Titans were. Keep in mind, you have a quarterback that cannot throw the ball over 10 yards. That's unbelievable. If you're an NFL defense and you're the number 1 defense in the league like the Jags, and you have a quarterback that's a backup, wasn't supposed to play, and can't throw the ball over 10 yards, you should not be able to get a first down.
Yet they were still playing 5 to 7 yards off the receivers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Corey Davis, is that his name?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. That guy looked like a freaking Pro Bowler. Like, how?
And yet, Mariota did not throw the ball over 10 yards. Just throwing the quick
that's
screens.
what I'm saying.
Like, the game plan was awful. They did not adjust. It was
really,
just frustrating all the way
to
around.
me, it was all across the board. Coaching, offense, defense.
We'll get to the offense in a second.
Everything.
Because the offense is to blame, but
it is.
let's not act like if we offense played better, then we would have won, because the defense could have stepped up too. The defense could have played better. I understand 9 points. I get it. That's awesome. But they shouldn't have scored over 3.
I think you have to allow the defense to not have to play perfect. And that's what we're asking them to do in this game, is to play a perfect game. To me, if the Jags offense can have one good drive where they score a touchdown, just one, then we win the game. To me, that means the defense did their job. And I know, yes, it was definitely not their best performance. And I love that Telvin comes out after the game and said it's on the defense why they lost. So that just shows leadership and their level of expectation for what they can do. So yes, I get that it wasn't perfect and it wasn't great, but at the same time, the Jags had the ball with 4 minutes left in the game to go down and at worst tie it or win the game. And they went 3 and out. They run the ball with Bortles for 8 yards out of bounds. The next play, he gets sacked. The next play, they run it again and have to punt it. And they waste all this time. And what do we see? A gassed defense go right back out on the field. And Tennessee basically iced the game right there. I'll concede it was not their best game, but at the same time, come on. If they have to play perfect every week, we can throw a lot of our expectations that we had going into the season right out the window.
They don't have to play perfect every week. Absolutely not.
But they had to this week.
That. They did need to this week. That's the problem.
They shouldn't have. They should have had to.
But they're going to have to occasionally, because we spent
They should have to in 2 weeks against Kansas City.
Dude, they spent all their money on defense.
I agree.
That is our strong point, and our running. We have a strong running game, but our stud runners out. It's on the defense.
We just signed Andrew Norwell and Dante Moncrief in the offseason. Who do we sign in defense? They drafted Blake Bortles 3rd overall, extended his contract. They drafted Leonard Fournette 4th overall. Granted, he wasn't in the game. They didn't sign Allen Robinson, and now we're saying it's all on the defense. They have invested
in the offense. Somebody needs to step up in a game where it's not going well. It's our defense.
I hear you. I absolutely agree. The defense. I'm not saying the defense isn't our strong suit. We all know that. I mean, you have to be an idiot not to know that. But I am saying you can't blame. The offense has to play football. They have to. It is a team game,
and it was abysmal.
And it was absolutely abysmal.
It was, and I think there's going to be a game or two like that.
I'm saying none of us should have gone into this game and said, "All right, look, the defense is going to give up 9 points, guys. We're in trouble." I mean, wouldn't you have taken that?
That's not really how I look at it, though. How I look at it is, and I thought this more last year, randomly throughout games. It was when we play good teams, if the defense doesn't score, we might not win. That's more what I'm thinking.
I agree.
And I know that's unfair because defenses, it's not their job to score. But all of last year, a bunch of games, I was like, defense is going to have to score. The Browns, defense had to score last year to win the game against the Browns last year.
Right.
I mean,
first Pittsburgh game.
You go into games, and that's just the way our team is set up. The way that we play, the conservative offense that we chose to go with, is like the defense has to score to win, and that's how it was last game. And it sucks that it's like that, but it's what needed to happen. And Jalen hasn't stepped up, and Ngakoue hasn't stepped up. Telvin's been okay.
I thought Ngakoue had his best game of the season,
which is sad because it wasn't even that good. He didn't have a sack. He had 2 tackles. I mean, he had one good collapse down the line of scrimmage on a tackle play where he filled the gap. That was good. But come on, dude, you're supposed to be Defensive Player of the Year, and you haven't even gotten a sack. Mm-hmm. It's like, come on, dude. You're known for your forced fumbles. Yeah, I get it. Malik should have had a forced fumble, but it is on the offense. But if we're the number 1 defense in the league, you cannot give up 6 points to a quarterback who cannot throw, to a running back. You cannot give up 6 points to a wildcat quarterback. I mean, that's just the bottom line to me. Yeah, the offense was terrible. We completed 1 pass over 10 yards. We didn't even attempt to pass over 20 yards. That's pathetic.
It is. Let me, before we get to the offense, because there's plenty to say about that.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying, but not in this game, because Tennessee is not a good team. Even if they're a average team, which we can all agree that at best that's what they are. I don't think they are. I think they're a bad team. We should win that game if the defense holds in the 9 points, no matter if the quarterback can't throw or can throw 100 yards. If they only give up 9 points, we should win that game. And so that's why, I just can't put anything on the defense. Yes, I have concerns going forward, but in this game, it shouldn't matter if Ngakoue doesn't get a sack. It shouldn't matter if they're not tackling great because Tennessee's not a good team. We shouldn't have to be perfect against Tennessee.
I would disagree about they're not a good team because, they went to the second round of the playoffs last year. Their defense was ranked 11th last year, and they improved it this year. So their defense is a top 10 defense, if you ask me. So a top 10 defense versus our offense.
Who's their best player on defense?
Jarrell Casey.
Who's their second best?
Maybe Kenny Vaccaro. Maybe
Who was the dude that sacked Bortles in the open field? Third or fourth play of the game.
I don't know. I think we're
looked at right.
Their defense isn't bad. They don't have a bunch of name players. They got who's the DB from New England. They have. Their secondary is pretty good. They're pretty deep at secondary, and
I think we're giving them too much credit because
I don't. I think their defense is good. I think their offense is horrible, and I think their coaching staff out-schemed us big time.
I'll give you that for sure. We were out-coached without a doubt.
They know how to make Bortles suck big time.
I just don't understand what we were doing. Why would we not attempt a pass? I get that we had two offensive linemen that were playing backups. Chris Reed played terrible. He played awful. Went back and watched the film.
Super bad.
He was awful. Why Tyler Shatley was not put into the game in the second half is beyond me. Because Chris Reed showed that he was terrible and could not block in pass block or run block. They should have put Shatley in. If that meant put him at center and move Linder over to guard, do that. I don't care.
Do something. Try something.
Yeah, but to not attempt a pass over 20 yards in the entire game, to attempt only 5 passes over 10 yards, only 5 passes over 10 yards were attempted. That's unbelievable to me. Absolutely unbelievable. Take some chances, man. I just don't get it.
Well, Tennessee's whole game plan was to keep Bortles in the pocket, not to let him extend plays, not to let him get out of the pocket, because that's where he's good. He can get rhythm that way. That's where he's best, and they did that. That's where all those tip balls came from. They were they kept him in the pocket and in front of him the entire time, and he had happy feet. It's like Brady when that happens. They didn't really get out from sack-wise as much, but they wouldn't let him get away from that, and it threw our game plan off. Those slant routes, everything was gone at that point. We made 0 adjustments, none.
Our most successful offensive attempts were when Yeldon ran the ball. He had 7 attempts for 44 yards, averaged 6.3 yards per carry. That's good. The fact that he only got 7 attempts is kind of confusing to me. They tried to platoon him and Corey Grant. What have I been saying forever about Corey Grant?
Can't run
the dude is not a traditional running back. He had 6 carries for 12 yards, 2 yards per carry.
That was because Yeldon shouldn't have been playing the game, man. His ankle injury is, from what everybody is saying, is severe. He should not have been in that game. He had to be in that game, and he manned up and did it.
And he played well, but
he did.
After 3 carries of Corey Grant only getting 2 yards and TJ Yeldon getting 6.3 yards per carry, at some point as a coaching staff, you got to ride the hot hand and you got to run what's working. To only run the ball 13 times with those 2 guys, you had 1 with Brandon Wilds and you had 2 with Bortles. That's 16 total carries amongst all of your backs and quarterback. The game was 6-9. It's not like we were playing catch up and had to throw the ball to get back in the game. We were trying to let Bortles air it out, and receivers weren't getting separation. They were dropping the ball. He wasn't getting time in the pocket. You got to adjust, and that's my biggest criticism of this coaching staff is they're just not adjusting.
Well, the other thing is that Yeldon was also our leading receiver with 6 catches for 42 yards,
which is a joke.
That was the only guy that did anything at all on offense. Period.
I'm waiting. We mentioned how Ngakoue hasn't gotten a sack yet. Waiting on Ramsey to do something. The guy who had the loudest offseason by any Jaguar by far. I'm ready to see Austin Seferian-Jenkins get in the huddle and say, "Throw me the ball." Speaking about investing offensively, that's another player that we didn't mention that they brought in. Again, and not to go back to what we were talking about, but they have invested offensively. They have. And Jenkins, what did he have? 1 catch?
3.
3 catches. Okay. Eventually you gotta come on. He's a giant of a man. We talked last week in our preview episode for this game that Jason, you thought he was gonna have 2 touchdowns because of the weak linebacker core for Tennessee. He didn't. You talk about over the middle. He should have been there. And you're right. To me, the more we talk about it, the more I think about this game. I just wonder what in the world were the coaches doing. What were they seeing that we weren't? Because it just seems like it was out to the flat. whatever punt.
It was basically like they didn't have Fournette. They couldn't power run against this team like they probably wanted to. So like, we're going to do the exact same thing against New England, and the Titans game plan against that exact offensive scheme, and they did nothing to change it. It didn't work. It kept not working. And they just stuck with it.
Yeah.
It's almost like they were scared to do anything because of the offensive line. Like they were scared to let Bortles sit in the pocket, and they were scared to run the ball. So their game plan was just to let Blake get the ball out in 2 seconds to the flat, to the middle, to the screens. D.D. Westbrook, 3 receptions on 3 targets, 31 yards. Why did we get away from that? T.J. Yeldon, 6 receptions on 6 targets. Why did we get away from that? We look at Keelan Cole. He had a terrible game. 5 receptions on 8 targets. O'Shaughnessy didn't have a great game. Moncrief, not a great game. Jenkins, I don't think he had a bad game. I mean, he was targeted 5 times. He caught it 3 times. He had 18 yards. I mean, that's what, 6 yards. I mean, that's what he is, though. He's that guy. He's not going to give you yards after the catch.
Listen, they weren't facing 3rd and 20s all game.
Exactly.
They had manageable 3rd down. So if he's catching 6-yard, great. Look for him on 3rd down.
I agree. And 2 of his catches came early in the first quarter.
Right.
They just got away from it. And
Well, it's also like you said at the end of the game when we had that 4th and 3 and we punted it and let our gas defense come back on the field. Why don't you go for it? You start with a fake punt that doesn't work, and you don't go for it for 4th and 3 at that point. Again, a horrible coaching decision, which I think our coaching staff has been great for the most part, but God, man, they were off.
That's why it's so hard, really, that's why this game is so frustrating, because there wasn't one player that cost us the game. It was a team effort of suck for this game. I mean, it really was. Again, I say that to the defense. I know they didn't play great, but still. But offensively, coaching on both sides of the ball, my goodness. And I will say this, though. There was everyone in the stadium that I was around was moaning and groaning about the fake punt attempt that didn't work. I didn't mind the call. I thought it was a good call. I would have loved if it had worked, and everyone would have been thrilled.
Exactly.
And it was at midfield. Our defense was, playing amazing. Gabbert, it was clear, was not going to do anything in that game. And had the helmet-to-helmet not occurred, they would have had the ball inside the 30-yard line.
Yeah.
So, people that are hemming and hawing about that call, I disagree with everyone that thinks that was bad. I thought it was a great call. It said, we're not afraid of you. We trust our defense. You're not going to do anything against us. And they didn't get it. And they're not always going to get it. But I hope they keep at it.
No, I agree. I don't want them to be not aggressive like that. And I mean, really, you talked about the hinge point of the game. I mean, that helmet on helmet, that penalty, that really, set the tone and changed things all the way around, unfortunately.
If O'Shaughnessy reaches that block on that fake punt, it goes for a first down. I mean, he missed the block on that dude who's apparently the greatest special teams player of all time. It was the same guy who had the fake punt reception for 70 yards last week for the Titans. I forgot his name, like Shawshank or Buckshank or whatever his name is. But the dude's always making plays on special teams. It's insane. But, I mean, O'Shaughnessy was like an inch away from getting that block. And the dude made a diving tackle to trip up Corey Grant, and that's what didn't. I agree with you, James. I think that was a good call. I mean, if we look at guys Marcel Darius, Tayshaun Gibson, and Calais Campbell played great games.
Yeah.
Those 3 guys, can't say anything about them. TJ Yeldon played a great game.
I think Telvin played pretty well overall. I know his grades weren't good, but I think he played.
It'd be one thing if his grades weren't good, but his grades were amongst the worst on the team.
Just from watching it,
defensive grade 59.
What was
coverage? Defensive grade 53. Tackling 28. Pass rush 74. That was his best grade. Coverage 59.
Where was Miles Jack?
Miles Jack graded out 8th best on the team. Amongst players that played over 50 snaps, he was 5th.
Definitely did not hear his name a whole lot.
No. I liked Ronnie Harrison. I thought Ronnie Harrison had a good game.
Yeah.
I'm kind of grasping at straws here, but
I mean, he's a rookie, so I mean, he's giving you a lot for what he is.
Right.
But the whole secondary just seemed like they were playing so far off of everybody.
They were. Why are they?
It's like,
why
what
do
are you doing?
do that?
The team doesn't have a quarterback. If there's a time to man up and play jam press cover to the line of scrimmage, it's against a team without a quarterback.
Again, doesn't that have to go back to the coaches?
Yes, he couldn't throw the ball.
He couldn't feel 2 of his fingers,
and they were lining up 7 yards off of him on 3rd and 4s. It was so frustrating to watch. There's no way that there is a single receiver for Tennessee that can match up against Ramsey or Boye. Yet they were giving him cushions to do so.
How many times did Boye get beat on just the quick hitch? It's like, dude, you're getting beat on that. Press up on the defender. Like, his breaks were solid. He was breaking up like as fluid as I've ever seen from a defensive back, but he was lining up pre-snap so deep he had no shot. It's like, help yourself, man.
This does bring me to one of the most important stats out of the game that literally nobody has mentioned all week, so we are breaking this on this podcast. So are you guys ready for this?
Yes.
The Jags are 0-2 against quarterbacks wearing gloves for medical reasons.
I have no response to that.
No, I don't either.
So
Joey, I'm just not in the mood.
I'm trying to bring some humor into this, man, because it's bad. It's really bad all across the board. I felt like crap all week. I mean, I really wish like tomorrow was Sunday just so we could not have this game be our last game.
I wish tomorrow was Sunday at Tennessee. Like, I'm so ready to play them again. I mean, why? Listen, they're gonna have games like this, but why does it have to be Tennessee?
I mean, this is what Pittsburgh feels like when we play them, I think.
It must be. Oh, man.
It's just bad, man.
It is.
I mean, I think I was supposed to quit the podcast since they beat us.
Yeah, I was looking forward to it. We had a little party and everything. Started our own group chat.
Yeah.
We'll have to come up with another one.
At Alan Melanson tweeted us wondering why I didn't burn down the dog park, which is just a huge oversight on my part.
Yeah,
I should have.
I thought about it.
I think that it would have been a communal burning down. People would have been cheering.
You definitely could have started a mob rule at that point.
Yeah. By the way, I will say this as we were going by it. I every time we walk by that dog park, I say something. I can't not.
No.
And it's spreading. I will say people are starting to hate it.
Yeah.
Because it is the dumbest thing in the stadium.
I'm starting to feel bad for the sponsor, Pet Paradise, because they had no idea what they were getting into. What a terrible investment to be a sponsor.
Like, I really don't think it's a bad idea. Again, I'm not a giant dog person. It's just bad location. Why put it there?
Right.
I mean, that area was packed.
It was perfect
on Sunday
what it was before.
because of the only place I was getting a breeze.
Right.
Yeah.
And in the shade. So, I mean, at halftime, that place was packed out and half of the people couldn't see because of the stinking dog park.
Right. Ugh.
Dang
But
it, dog
we
park.
digress on that. It is I do blame the dog park.
It's definitely part of the reason we lost.
Yeah, absolutely. If not all of it, besides the coaching, the terrible offense, the bad tackling,
The heat.
the heat. Right. All that. All right.
Here's
Why-
something. Do you want to take a break? Or
Do we need to take a break, or we just want to keep venting?
I say we just keep venting and we'll just have a short episode.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, so here's another thing that frustrates me, because I was a part of coaching football at the high school level for 6 years. So I saw a decent amount of football games. Been a part of good teams, been a part of bad teams. And something that is consistent with both of those is you have games where you're just off, right? And you have an outlier game where you just crap the bed, for lack of better words. The national media, it strikes me as odd to hear the way they talk about how Minnesota had just an off game and they're going to bounce back and you can't put too much stock into their loss. And then the Jags are who we thought they were, and that's the Blake Bortles we all knew. It's like, what?
They're just waiting for it.
Yeah, I just don't get it, how you can hold one team to that standard and then hold another team to the complete opposite standard when the same. If anything, the Jaguars played better than the Vikings because at least the Jaguars showed up on defense. The Vikings didn't show up on offense or defense. So it's just funny how the national media talks about the two so differently.
Oh, without a doubt. I'm convinced national media does not watch the Jaguars, study the Jaguars, or could probably name 6 players on the Jaguars roster. They know Blake Bortles, Jalen Ramsey, and then maybe Calais Campbell and a couple other. But
maybe Fournette.
They don't. Yeah. They do not pay attention. It's the laziest work of national media when they talk about the Jags. I mean, there's a handful out there that do, but for the most part, they're just saying whatever and going. We're the smallest market. They're not going to pay us very much attention, and so it is what it is. I'm not surprised by it. I expect it, and in a way, it's almost like good because when we do win, you're just going to shove it right in your face.
Now, I will throw this out there because I know, Jason, you were not a huge Can fan before the season. You're a big proponent of him as the season started. Is him being out that big of a deal for our line? Because it sure seemed like it.
Yes, to answer your question. The drop-off between Robinson to Wells, I don't think is that drastic. But the drop-off between Can to Reed is just terrible. I mean, there was plays where Bortles, it's sad because people jumped on Bortles for like not making a couple throws that he should have made. And I get it. He wasn't good. He wasn't accurate. There was a couple plays where he was just getting hit right as he's throwing because Chris Reed couldn't realize that his guy was stunting around the other defensive lineman, and then he had to find a guy. So he was just standing there staring at grass, and Linder's trying to block 2 guys. And it's like, dude, and Bortles was getting destroyed. And it's like, man, we're blaming Bortles, but he's getting like hit every single play. And as he's throwing the ball, he's getting hit. He can't step into any throws. His receivers aren't catching the ball. So you combine all those things, and it's like, of course he had a bad game. Again, I already mentioned it. The coaches should have adjusted Chris Reed and taken him out of the game. He must have just really impressed them in practice for the coaches to leave him in the entire game. Because, in my opinion, you have players that didn't play, Josh Walker, Tyler Shatley, that could have at least stood. A trash can would have been better than Chris Reed. And I hate to bash players because I understand their job is hard, but golly, man, do something. Put your hands on something. Even if you get a holding call, put your hands on somebody and do something. Don't let your quarterback get hit.
Well, I mean, that does tie into kind of my thought process by asking that question is like, I'd like this to believe that this is just like one of those off games. Everybody has off games. Great teams have off games. But should we be concerned with our offensive line if can't get healthy, if Linder, I mean, he's got a knee. We've already lost Cam. I mean, should we be concerned with that? Or are they going to fill those guys in? Is this a long-term like issue?
I think it is. I mean, offensive line is huge. It's sets the tone for the entire offensive play for a game. So depth is always a concern. And when you lose your left tackle in the second game of the season, that's concerning. When you lose your right guard, who's been playing pretty well, yeah, it's absolutely a concern. Will they fix it? I think they will. But it's obviously a concern because, you know, I doubt it's the last time any of our offensive linemen are going to get hurt for the rest of the year. We still have 13 more games to play the regular season. So there's plenty of time for more injuries to happen. But at the same time, it's going to be true for most teams. You know, depth at offensive line is a huge concern for every team. So, but yeah, for us, simple answer, yes, I do believe it is a concern. It's something we need to keep an eye out on for sure.
I mean, the other thing I thought about as well is, I mean, Fournette's out, probably back next week, I would guess. You got Yeldon hurt now. We didn't do anything. We never drafted, didn't take anybody, didn't pick up anybody as far as running back depth. I mean, our top 2 running backs are banged up early and banged up good. That's another concern for me going forward. I mean, I don't want to be like doomsday at this point, but do they go out and get somebody as a running back at this point?
I don't think it's like end of the world because we have depth at offensive line. I don't think the coaches addressed it properly. But look around the league at other injuries. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo going out for the year. I mean, there's guys. There's guys. I mean, there's quarterbacks. There's major position players getting hurt. I understand we lost Marquise Lee, but you look around the league and people are just dropping left and right. So everyone's going through this attrition process. We just have to do a better job of managing who we have because we have depth. But if you would, I hate to beat the dead horse here, but if you're asking me to rank our offensive linemen, Chris Reed is far, far down that list. Like, he should not be the guy that comes in relief of an injury. I'm sorry. Like, he must have shown something, but we got to do a better job of managing it. Should Fournette have played? Maybe. We talked about in the last podcast, you asked me how many points Fournette was worth to the team. I said about 10. I believe that. If he was in the game, I think we would have scored at least 10 more points with Fournette in the game.
Well, and on that, they haven't come out and said it, but it seems to be that Fournette was cleared, but that was a coaching decision for him not to play.
It's almost like they thought they could beat him without him.
Yeah,
right.
I think that's kind of what everybody's alluding to. So again, is it the coaches on this one? It seems like that they really stunk the bed more than even the offense.
I think it has to fall on the coaches. We have so much talent on this team. It has to.
Yeah. Well.
And also, and I know, Jason, you're not high on him, but the Jags drafted an offensive lineman in the 4th round, Will Richardson, not in the 7th round, not in the 6th round, in the 4th round, which is a round where you can find talent. That's who they invested in. Where's he at?
Dude, he was inactive.
Inactive?
He was inactive.
Healthy inactive?
Game. Yes.
I think he can only play right tackle. That's just what I think. I mean, I know Marone said he could play left, but I'd never seen him play left in his entire life. I think he can only play right tackle.
If he can't slide into right guard, then they shouldn't have gotten him in the 4th round. But
well, if they think they're not going to bring back Parnell, because Parnell is kind of expensive.
Is old. That's true.
Yeah,
but still, 4th round guy should be able to slide over.
You think a healthy young body should be able to do something in there.
Not everyone can move from tackle to guard. It's a little more difficult than people think. moving from tackle to tackle was a little easier, I think.
Right. Well, I mean, you would know more, but to me, I'm thinking if you're a 4th round pick, that should be in your repertoire, don't you think? I mean, 4th round, that's you find talent in the 4th round.
You can, but you can also find a bunch of duds in the 4th round too. So
clearly,
yeah,
you can find some healthy scratches in the 4th round, I guess. But yeah, I mean, look, I think.
I mean, we're looking to place blame, but I mean, it was just a stink bomb.
It was. Is there anyone that you guys can give a game ball to? And let's focus on something positive here.
I would say Yeldon 100%, not only because he was our sole bright spot on the offense, but because he toughed it out with what was a pretty serious ankle injury from all indications.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, for sure, man. The concessions guy that came down and was selling water.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, he was just selling waters and cold waters, and he even ran out at one point because I was buying like 2 waters every time he came down. And the fans next to me passed over my money and then passed the water to me. I mean,
sounds like it was working well.
Oh man, it was great. I mean, I could only handle the seats for a half because it was so hot, and the sun was just beating down mercilessly. But man, that concession stand guy, shout out, game ball to that guy.
Okay,
you know?
great. I'm gonna go Joey's route and say Lambo, just because he did put some points on the board for us.
And the kid has been flawless.
He has been. But I want to go back really quick. Jason, you're talking about the Heat. And we're going to get into the game day experience as a fan in what Fred Taylor said post-game on the radio about that. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll get back with that right after this. Welcome back to another Jags podcast, episode 32. Somber night, angry night. Like we needed anything more to be angry about besides the game itself, as those of us that were at the game were getting into our cars and for some reason turning on sports talk to listen to everyone talk about the game that we just witnessed. We got to hear the words of Fred Taylor, who said basically this, that all of Jacksonville came out for the New England game because it was a rivalry game or a revenge game, a better way to put it. And then no one showed out for the Titans game, which is, as he went to say, maybe I need to inform you, is a bigger game because it's a divisional game, which we had actually said the week before, and most people I would think would know that. And he said no one came out and supported. There 20,000 people less at the Titans game versus the Patriots game. And he went on to say this, and I quote, "I'm not blaming them," talking about the fans. "I'm not blaming them, but I kind of am." Jason, you were at the game. I give it to you.
Fred, let me inform you about a little something, okay? First of all, you're going to charge fans 5 times the ticket price to go to the Patriots game, and then 7 days later, you're going to bash fans for not going back and spending their hard-earned money to sit in a game that is over 90 degrees the entire game. Let me inform you, Fred, about something. I had to pay for my tickets. I didn't get a free ticket to go to the game. Let me inform you, Fred, I did not sit under a tent with fans blowing on me during the game. Okay, I sat in the sun 2 inches away from a fat guy who was just sucking up all the cool air. All right. So let me just tell you about the fans that were there. It was so hot. I could not stand sitting in the seats for more than a half. I had to go up to the sky patio to stand in the shade because I was getting sunburnt and I was just overheating and I was drinking so much water. Okay. I just to give you some context, was drinking only water and Gatorade. That's the only beverages I was putting into my body, and I still was overheating. So, Fred, yeah, I understand in your little cooled, fanned off, tinted area by the pools that you thought the fans should be more supportive, but come down with the regular folk who spend their money and then come tell me that. That's what I would say.
I was at the game as well. It was without a doubt the most boring game I have ever been to as a Jaguar fan. Without a doubt. And I really didn't want to be a prisoner of the moment and say that. So I went back and started thinking, we've sat through loss after loss after loss as Jags fans. But for some reason, maybe it was coming off of the New England game and expectations were so high. It was a division game. You know, we thought 3-0, here we go. We're going to be first place in the division, hated Tennessee Titans, and they just came out flat as And I don't know if that added to it, but I was on my phone in the second half, just half paying attention because there was nothing going on. The stadium, after the Jags punted on the very first drive of the game that they had offensively, when they punted, it was like there was nothing after that. It just went completely flat in the whole stadium. It was weird. It was just like no one cared, but everyone stayed. And to say that when the offense and the coaches don't show up, to criticize the fans for not showing up, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Like, give me a break. I can't believe that. And you're right, Jason. I mean, it was, they say that the Patriots game, it was the hottest game on record. Listen, I was at both, and the Titans game felt way hotter.
I agree.
Way hotter because the sun was out. It was beating down on you. There was no breeze. In the Patriots game, there was cloud coverage. It was way more humid in the Patriots game. I'll give you that. But just the burning, since I had napkins on my neck and tucked into my hat on the side of my face because it was just like you were saying, getting burnt. But sitting there, waiting, hoping, wishing that it was going to be worth it. And I remember leaving the stadium, getting in the car, driving home, thinking what a colossal waste of time that was. And then, of all things, to hear Fred Taylor get mad at the fans. Seriously? That's the angle you're going to take after the game? Mad at the fans? Are you serious? I just can't. I cannot believe it. And we love Freddie T. You know, he's a great Jaguar. Did great things for the organization. But come on, man, have some context and perspective, please.
No, I'll take a different perspective because I actually did not go to the game. I was wearing my Freddie T
Smart
jersey.
Man.
I guess
Smart
so.
man.
Yeah. I was wearing my Freddie T jersey for the game, wishing some luck on him, and he is my favorite football player of all time. So, you know, I got to throw some respect to him for that. But come on, man. I mean, I think he's very football smart, but I don't think he's very smart outside of that because you don't say that. I didn't go to the game mainly because I didn't want to spend $40 for parking. So, Freddie, if you want to throw me $40 for parking, I probably would have showed up. You know, I think that's what a lot of people don't understand is that it's expensive. You know, even if you have free tickets, it's expensive to go to a game. So you got to take that into context. And the hardcore fans did show up. The other thing he's not taking into account is that we weren't playing Pittsburgh. We weren't playing the Patriots. We weren't playing a team where their fans show up in droves. Titans don't travel like that.
I will say, I didn't see a single Titans fan.
Exactly.
Not one.
And if that was the Pittsburgh Steelers or a team where they come, it would have been almost a full house. I mean, you got to factor that in. It was also a 1 o'clock game versus a 4 o'clock game. Everybody's going to show up for a 4 o'clock game. There's more time to tailgate. There's more time to get down there. You're not rushed. You're not looking at any of that. It was hot. And it was, like you said, it was a crap game. I mean,
September home games suck.
Yeah.
They're the worst. I remember when the schedule came out, it said 3 in a row. I thought, are you kidding me? I don't know if it was last year or 2 years ago. We had one home game in September. It was awesome.
yeah.
I was thrilled. They're tough. They are tough to sit there in the sun for that long in September is just brutal. I wouldn't do that for anything else except for the Jags. I mean, when we go to the beach, we bring a tent, and if we don't have a tent, we don't go. You know, and you're at the ocean with the ocean breeze and the water to go into, and we still don't because it's too hot on the beach.
And you're 5 minutes from your house, not
Yeah.
30.
But I mean, we bought a tent for that very reason. We can't set up. They won't let us set up a tent in the stadium. You know.
I mean, I will say in Fred's defense, because again, I was listening to it afterwards, and again, the only people he was talking to were the hardcore fans because nobody else was listening at that point.
Yeah, that's
the people
true.
that he actually wanted to show up probably weren't even listening to the radio or whatever because they could have cared less. But his tone, I don't think he meant it the way it came out. I mean, I think his whole thing was almost more of a, come on, guys, we can't get down with this. We've got to keep showing up. We got to keep supporting them. You know, that's important as well for this team to do well. But it came out all kind of wrong. And I mean,
the timing was bad.
It was horrible timing.
Where he said it was bad.
Yeah, it was.
All of it.
Yeah.
You know, and look, we still love Freddie T, but come on, man.
Yeah, you got to be a little smarter than that.
Yeah, you do. You want to add anything else, Jason?
No, I think I said everything I needed to say.
I think you did. I think you did. You articulated it well.
Got it off
too,
my
might
chest.
add.
That's all I needed to do.
All right, let's close this chapter on the Jaguars season. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Do you guys want to talk about it anymore?
Nope.
No. Okay.
No.
This is a shorter episode for good reason because, frankly, we just don't want to dwell on this game. It was terrible. It was terrible. So that's it. Remember to follow us on Twitter at Another Jags Pod, Facebook and Instagram at Another Jags Podcast. We appreciate you all that listen. We appreciate all the support. Continue to ask us some more questions. on Twitter and all the other social platforms. Spread the word. And as always, now more than ever, go Jags.